Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Right on Track. I am so excited because today I am joined by my incredible guitarist, Luke Wood.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. So I had you on today because we're going to be talking all about collaborating with other musicians in the studio. But before we dive into that, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your musical journey?
Sure. So I started out pretty young on piano. My brother and I played, and my mom would make us practice a lot. And so I sort of started to get into other things that weren't piano related because piano was starting to become a lot of work. So I started to do guitar, and I picked up trumpet in elementary school. And I still really love to play the piano, but guitar is just a little bit more fun for me because it's sort of, I listen to a lot of rock music. I really like bands like Van Halen and Led Zeppelin, so I play a lot of guitar. And then when you play guitar, bass is kind of like second nature, so I like to play bass also. And I'm a music business student at Belmont University. And I guess what do I do for fun? I like to play golf for fun. And I really like sushi.
That is like the coolest little unknown fact or little known fact about you. I didn't know you like sushi and play golf for fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some tonight actually.
How is Nashville, by the way?
It's cool. It's we get a few more sunny days than you do in Pittsburgh, so that's awesome. I love the sun, and I've got about a week and a half left, so finals are coming up, and then I'm back in Pittsburgh, and looks like we'll be cutting a couple songs together.
I'm super excited, and that is a perfect transition into our quote for this episode, which is by Matisyahu, who is an American Jewish singer, rapper, beatboxer, and alternative rock musician. And Luke is going to read this quote for us.
When I listen to music, there's usually some aspect of that music that I like. And that's what I take and try to bring into my own music. Bringing in other musicians to collaborate with is a great way for me to test out new ways or make music that I might have not discovered on my own.
I love this quote because we know when we work together and with Bob in the studio how it's such a collaborative effort, and being on the same page, I definitely couldn't have created my music the way that it is without both of you. So I definitely agree with this quote, and it is very important to collaborate with other musicians and watch that magic happen.
Yeah, for sure. You're really nice about letting me sort of create parts and lines. And so that's probably the most fun. I really love doing studio stuff because often I'll sort of get to take your songs and sometimes add a little flavors of myself when I play the guitar and the bass lines. And you're always nice to sort of to give me that slack to sort of do a little bit of creating on my own.
Yeah, and I think that's important because I am crazy about the songs sounding the way I want them to sound because I wrote them. But at the same time, I know that everybody has their own style, and that's what makes these recordings so special because I'm in that, you're in that, Bod's Productions in that, so it's kind of all of us blended together. But I'm curious to know, like, when I send you a stripped down version of my songs and say, hey, here you go, run with it, come up with something, what is your process of taking that and developing it into a guitar part and bass line?
Well, you're usually really nice about sending me reference songs, and we've done enough songs together where I sort of know what you're looking for stylistically. But, if you listen to enough pop and country records, you sort of get the vibe and the feel of what's expected. And there's certain, I don't want to get too technical, but on acoustic guitar, especially strumming patterns that are really common and that really fit. And it also depends on what kind of style your song is. So like for LA Will Wait For Me, I kind of knew exactly what to play. It's sort of an upbeat song. It's more there's more energy, but another one of your songs, can't remember the names of all of them. It was so long ago. But it was more of a sort of a chill thing, and I want to make sure that I'm not stepping over your lyrics or your melody when it's a more relaxed song. So I think it comes down to listening to music, um, your music especially, but sort of having other places to step off of so that you know things fit together. That's really important.
Exactly, and you brought up the reference tracks, and I think those are so important because there are some musicians that I worked with in the past, producers especially, and I would send them reference tracks and they would mix something and it would sound nothing like I wanted. And that's one of the main reasons why I left my old studio and found Bob because he totally listens to everything that I want. And same for you. Like, you're very good with listening to the reference tracks and going off of that, but also making something original as well. And I think that ties into the communication and working together as a team. And the other thing, too, is I'm curious to know that how is your experience working with me different than some of the other projects you work on? Because I am a songwriter and these songs are close to my heart and I want them to sound a specific way. So, how is that different working with a songwriter rather than, say, with another group of musicians doing a cover or something along those lines?
Well, when you send me your songs, they're pretty much already done, and so I really just have to. I'm sort of adding a spice almost to a finished meal. But here, I sometimes I work with people. Um, like I'm producing one person who I pretty much just rewrote their whole song, because that it kind of just needed a little bit more guidance. And so when working with him in the producer role, there's sort of a little more hands-on. There's a little more focus, and I kind of have to be a little more in depth on the way that I work with this person's music. And that's totally cool because different people are at different points in the songwriting process, and some people love to collaborate. There's other people I work with here, and I produce this one girl's record, and she's a great songwriter. So we just mostly talked about production, and she already had a lot of production done herself. So I just played a little bit of, sort of wrote a guitar part, wrote a bass line, and sort of go back and forth on the drums I had programmed. So it depends on where people are at and what they're looking for, because you don't want to be too bossy if somebody is really set and has a vision, but also if someone's song is kind of unorganized or doesn't make any sense musically, then I'm not hesitant to add my opinion, and a lot of times people are nice enough to sort of accept what I have to say, and that's part of being a good producer is you don't want to be too overbearing, but also, I mean, my name's on the track too if I produce a song, so I don't want it to come out sounding bad, because that looks just as poorly on me as it does on the songwriter.
Yeah, I really like what you said about not being bossy, but also knowing what you want and being flexible. And I think flexibility is one of the most important qualities that any session musician or producer or songwriter needs to have, because when you involve other people, you are working together. And yes, these are my songs, but I can't be like, yeah, no, I don't want to listen to any of your ideas. This is what I want. Too bad if you don't like it. Like, I'm not like that at all. And I think it's really important to find musicians that have that mindset as well, to bring their own ideas to the table, but also be open to suggestions and going from there.
Yeah, totally. I think part of that is just being musically cultured and sort of like, you know, I'll pick on myself here. For probably from second to eighth grade, I probably only listened to one genre of music, and that's probably the stupidest thing anyone can do. Especially if you're a college student, you only listen to one genre of music, and you want to be a musician. I will never get that. I would never be able to work with you or anyone if I only listened to, I guess you could say, like classic rock or glam metal from the 80s is probably my favorite genre. But I also listen to a lot of, like right now, I pretty much only listen to Elvis Presley. And that's just kind of random. I used to listen to him a lot when I was younger, but like right now, that's really what I'm into. Or Like 2 months ago, all I listened to was John Mayer, and I've also listened to a lot of country and folk, and I listen to jazz. I don't really listen to a lot of classical, but uh, I think if you have an understanding, and I think you totally do, because I can hear it in your songs. You sort of draw on different genres and different influences, and then that also gives you the flexibility to maybe bring in different people that might even add more in that specific genre. So I think that's really cool, and that makes good songs great songs. Everyone hates a stereotypical pop song, and your songs really bring in sort of different flavors, and your lyrics sort of draw on different points of your life. So it's really cool to find that diversity in your music.
I love how you brought that up, the diversity and being open to different genres, because I was totally in the same position as you, but I didn't get over it in eighth grade. Literally, I only listened to pop music like up through my first years of college. And then I acknowledged country and found an appreciation for that. And I found that this happened around the time when I really wanted to pursue songwriting. And I'm finding how important it is because I learn different things from pop and country. I work with pop songwriters and country songwriters, so it gives me more of a variety of people I can work with and songs I can write. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I love doing different genres. I wish I could do like a record with like every song being a different genre. And I think that's sort of been. I'm really happy to say that because I feel like a couple of years ago I'd have been like, I just want to do like Led Zeppelin songs, but now I like jazz or country's cool. Johnny Cash is awesome. People playing the banjo on folk tunes. That's sweet. I love mandolin. I love. I don't really listen to hip hop or rap at all. So that's a part where I need to. I'll be honest. I need to grow. I just don't like it even a little bit. But as far as pretty much everything else, I'm always down to give it a listen.
Exactly, yeah, and I think that's really important, and it definitely shows in you and how flexible you are and creative with my songs being both pop and country. And so now I want to move into the studio recording side of things. So after I send you my songs, we talk about them, we FaceTime and get everything how we want it to be, and then we go to the studio. And something I noticed about you super fast was when you did the first song for me, Find Love, which is on my album, I remember Bob was going to play guitar for that. And then the day before the session, he texts me, he's like, hey, I don't like what I came up with. Luke's gonna do it. And I was like, wait, here's this. Here's Luke. Like, I don't know Luke. And he like, it was so funny because he sent me like at least 6 text messages. He's so efficient. He's awesome. He played at the Smokey Robinson event. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I know he's awesome. Okay. And I was so nervous because like it's important for me to like work with musicians that I feel comfortable with and that I trust. And that song, Find Love, is probably one of my most vulnerable songs. And so I was legit like I was so terrified like for that session. And Bob even noticed like when I walked in the morning, he was like, "You okay?" I was like, yeah, I'm just tired, which was a freaking lie. Like, I was really nervous because, like, I didn't really know you before that. And I was nervous. And the other concern I had, I was like, he literally got this song a day ago. Like, how is he going to nail it today? And you literally did. And so, two things I want to touch on here is how efficient do you have to be? Like, how much practice goes into rehearsing that when you walk into a session, you literally get it in a few takes and it's flawless? And also the relationship trust side of things, like finding people that you're comfortable working with in the studio.
Oh well, first of all, those are really nice words from you and Mr. McCutcheon. I really appreciate that. I just I like to rep the stuff a lot. Um, Especially when this is sort of, when I'm recording myself, I make a lot of mistakes because it's a lot less casual. Like I'll be like watching a YouTube video and I'm like, all right, let's see if I can lay down some bass, and then if I don't get it, there's always tomorrow. But when when we're at the vault, there's a lot more there's a lot more focus. I don't think I'm when I'm recording music for someone else, I'm that's the most focused I am in anything in my entire life. Um, and I'm happy that you appreciate efficiency. I really try to get it in one or two takes. And we're lucky. Not that I would ever need this, but of course, usually if you do something in two takes, if it's sort of a pop tune, you can fly stuff over from one verse to the other verse if you mess up. So we're fortunate with the new technology. There's a little more slack um, with your performance, but yeah, I love to rehearse the stuff um, really hard and not look at the music. And I tell some of my students this that I teach guitar is like I don't want you to look at the music. Okay, the music's a lie. You should be able to feel the music without looking at the notes, and that allows me to focus on like phrasing things. It allows me to focus on like making sure I'm on time, which is probably my biggest challenge as a musician. So pretty much, if you're familiar with the song, then you can sort of take um, like a 95% to like 100% of your effort by just not looking at the music and focusing on what you're playing. And then as far as like finding people to work with, I think it comes down to being a good guy. Like I'd rather play with we'll call him a B-lister musician that's not going to complain about mushrooms being on a pizza instead of like an A-lister like shred guitar player that's incredible but is a jerk. Cuz like when it comes down to it, like you don't have to be Eddie Van Halen to get sessions. Like you just have to be on time. You have to be efficient. And hopefully I've proven that to you guys, and maybe you'll keep bringing me back. But at a certain point you have to be good and efficient. But also I'm not gonna come in like a bad mood and like throw my coat on the couch and be like, oh, how much longer is this gonna be? I've got a tea time later. You know, I think you got to be a good guy to continue to work in the music industry, and that's something that I really try and focus on.
You definitely are one of the nicest, and you will be back.
Thank you. I appreciate that's really nice.
Yeah, you will be back doing many songs with me, and we have a session coming up soon. And I think everything you said, from the efficiency to being a good person, being on time, being a good sport, it's all so important. And I think what it all really comes down to is like having fun with it too. Like, yes, you have to be efficient and be focused to get the recordings done well, quickly, but there's no stress. Like, Bob and I aren't stressing you the hell out when you're in the booth and stuff. Like, we joke around and we have fun, and I think that all comes down to, like being comfortable together and having that joy as a team.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's like so fun, and time literally flies. And so I'm just curious about, like, have you been in sessions that had toxic energy that you kind of walked away from, and how kind of the worth ethic is different from those sessions that aren't as great versus ones like ours that are super fun?
Yeah, well, Bob McCutcheon knows me pretty well because I invite myself over to his house every 3 days. So, they know me pretty well. They like to give me a hard time over there. But yeah, it is really relaxed, and that does help because if you're super stressed, you're gonna make mistakes. There's a certain level of stress you want to have so that you're focused. But if you're super stressed and like, well, it is stressful, right? Because you're paying for the session time, and the when I make mistakes, then that's just costing you money. So I want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth and that you don't hire someone else, right? So I haven't really had that many bad experience. I mean, in the studio, I haven't had that many bad experiences. But certainly, if you're like stressed out, and there's people there that are like, oh, he's doing horrible. Like you kind of get inside your own head, and sometimes like if I'm working with someone and it's just not their day, like I'll sort of put on a smiley face and so that they just sort of get through it. And you don't want to make someone who's already struggling do worse, right? You don't want to kick someone when they're down. Um, so especially from a session player's perspective, if people are like talking crap in the booth, like, whew, that would really make me upset. That would really make me upset because if it's kind of a self-conscious thing. Like now, the next take, you're gonna be like, oh, if I don't get this, they're gonna be really ticked. And then you know what? You're probably gonna mess up because you're focusing on that and not the music. But yeah, at the vault, I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there. Greatest recording studio in Pennsylvania. Okay, greatest recording studio. Tremendous, tremendous equipment. The staff, from Brian to Jimmy to Dave to Bob, everyone's so friendly. Everyone's so knowledgeable. It's honestly, it's such a blessing I get to work there with them and with you especially. And that's why it's been such a successful business for them is they really know how to do it. They really know how to do it for sure.
Well, I second that. The Vault is the best recording studio ever. And I was like so lucky to find it because when I was finding my first studio, the vault wasn't really up and running yet. It didn't show up on Google search. I didn't even know it existed. But then, like, when I was switching studios, I Googled, like, I was desperately looking for a new one. And the vault popped up. And I was like, oh, what's this? This is new. So, like, Bob and I had, like, an hour phone conversation. And then I went to do a little tour. And, like, right off the bat, I was like, he's the nicest ever. He's open to working with a pop songwriter. He knows what he's doing. And like 10-hour sessions with him literally fly. And it's so fun. And then when you come, it's like extra fun because like we're all nice. We're all there for the music. We all want the session to go well and the song to be the best that it can be. So the environment that you and I get to work in is such a blessing because it's hard to find that. I struggled for years to find a good studio, and I have friends who are still struggling to find a good producer and good musicians to work with. And so I'm like really realizing now how fortunate I am to have found the Vault and Bob and you to create my music with.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I can even think of like when they were still opening up the studio, they were nice enough to record. Well, they recorded several songs of mine, but the first one, it's called it was called "Hot in the Shade," and this is sort of like the first song I ever wrote. So it wasn't really, an incredible tune, but he was really nice enough to, I had a band at the time, and everyone sort of came in and. It was probably everyone was sort of, not as focused as maybe he's used to working with, and I recorded it for free just to, I guess, test out the equipment. And while this is not a song I would release, it's kind of a fun song to, my friends and I joke about it sometimes. But they've been really super nice to me, especially one of for a physics project. Brett and I, Mr. McCutcheon's son, Brett and I wrote a song about physics for a project, and we recorded it
Oh my god, that's
at the
great.
vault. Yeah, it's awesome. We got a B on the project, which is horrible. Yeah, I lose sleep over that to this day. But yeah, that's awesome. I actually released that. I'm gonna plug myself here. I released that on my EP that came out like 2 years ago or something like that. So anyway, it was a fun song. We just kind of threw it together just for the project, but we ended up really, having a fun time with the song. So we sort of, we've played it live one or two times, and there's a lot of fun memories down at the vault for sure.
There definitely are, and I have studio vlogs to look back on. And at our next session, we're planning on filming some of the
Great.
sessions, so I'm super
Absolutely.
excited for that. Um,
Yeah.
so another question I wanted to ask you is, after the song's recorded and it's released, what's it like to hear your playing on a released song?
If it's good, then I love listening to it. Well, also, I mean, if my playing's good, but your song "LA Will Wait for Me" is awesome. I listen to that a lot. I show my friends and I send it to my parents and stuff. What are we at on the stream count there? Are we at 8,000 yet?
It's like currently, as of now, and today's April. What's
April
today?
10th.
Right. I can't keep track of days anymore. As of right now, it is only 52 streams from 8,000.
Nice. So you'll have 8,000 by the end of the day. Yeah, so I love listening to stuff that I've done well on, and sometimes like I would say everything that's released I've probably done well, like because Bob wouldn't, Bob would be like, you need to play it again if I did it poorly. But especially stuff I've recorded, one of the biggest reasons like I have trouble releasing new songs is because I'll release it and then a week later be like, why is that kick drum so loud? Oh my gosh, I need to like pull it off Spotify and remix it. So it's kind of hard, especially with singing, right? Because nobody wants to hear their own voice. But I've certainly become a better singer over the years, and so it's easier for me to hear myself sing, or play. But especially on your stuff, I really like listening to stuff I've played because it's, I don't know, the songs are fun. You write fun songs, and with other people I've worked with, if it sounds good, it's fun to listen to, and you know nobody likes to listen to themselves play poorly. I'll just say that.
Have you ever majorly criticized yourself when you listen to a song you played on that was released?
Yeah, for sure. Um, Nothing's ever perfect. And I think there's a select few here in Nashville, the sort of session player, sort of, it's like a little club of like, I heard there were like 4 or 5 guitar players, 4 or 5 bass players. They're the only people that play sessions here, and they're probably perfect. But unfortunately, I am not perfect, not even close. But so there's always things I can nitpick, and usually it's close enough. It's passable. It's probably it's good playing. But if you listen to something 300 times, then you're probably gonna find something wrong with it. And I hate that. I hate it when there's something where it's like, man, if I was just a second closer on that last chord, it would have sounded better. Or if something's slightly out of tune, that's always tough. But Bob catches most of the stuff. Like I said, if I make a mistake in the first verse and there's only 2 takes, then he can move something. Oh, I hope I'm not giving away any secrets. Uh-oh. But yeah, there's stuff that Bob quality controls the mixes, and if I'm like a fraction of a second off on a chord, he can move the chord so that it sounds in time. Not that that would ever happen to me or anything.
Well, I think it's really important that you brought up the point that nobody's perfect. I mean, if you're a Nashville session player, sure, maybe you're perfect, but the typical musician, songwriter, guitarist, producer, nobody's perfect, and music's not perfect. I listen to hit songs and literally my ears are ridiculous. Like Bob probably thinks I'm ridiculously insane because I would like text him when he sends me mixes like, can you like change this, and then he can't even hear it at first, and he's like, how do you even hear that, you're insane. So I'm very observant, which is annoying because even when I'm listening to pop songs, like hit songs, I hear things that bother me, and they're like top 40 songs, like I shouldn't be complaining, but that's just how I am. But I think we all need to realize that nobody's perfect, and when you get into the studio working with other musicians to record something special and fun, perfection is not the goal. The goal is to get something incredible that people are going to love. And if there's a very small imperfection in it, nobody's going to care.
Yeah, I think there's actually, there's room for imperfection in songs, and that's what makes it cool. Like, people, my favorite band's Van Halen, but I think the greatest band of all time is no question Led Zeppelin. And, I always get some mean comments about people that say the drummer like speeds up. And, that's probably true, but maybe that's cool in some cases. Maybe it's cool to add a little energy, or like in a song, um, I'm about to shoot another music video for an Elvis song called Burning Love. The intro drum fill speeds up just a touch. Um, and it kind of gives it like a new energy. I don't know. Like if something's completely out of time, then that sounds bad. But if you have stuff that's maybe a little off, maybe I think that's kind of cool, and or I don't know. There's other stuff. Maybe there's vocal sort of inflections that give the song character. Sometimes if stuff's on the grid, like super robotic, like that doesn't sound cool. And some of the coolest jazz records have somebody is really out of tune, especially the ones from like the 40s and 50s. And that's cool. People aren't gonna say those aren't great records because somebody was sharp on a C or something. Like that's just what makes the records cool. And I think we have a lot more control nowadays. We can move notes around, and I love me some auto tune on myself. But I think you have to be careful not to lose the heart and the soul of the song by trying to overcorrect everything.
Exactly. And oh no, that's our timer, but we're going to carry on just a little bit more because I have something to say about everything you just said. So I think what that all really comes down to is expression. Like, I know thinking back to when I was in undergrad and I was a piano major, I had to play all these classical pieces, and I loved the ones that were very expressive. Claude Debussy is my favorite composer, and I've played so many of his pieces that, like, my professor would always say, like, stick to the sheet music. Like they were always strict about the timing and the crescendos and everything on the sheet music. But when I'm playing Arabesque number one, which is my favorite piece ever, I don't care what the sheet music says. Yes, that is what Debussy intended, but as the performer, there's room for expression and to put, like you said, your heart and soul into it. And I think that same thing can be said about recording pop and country music as well. Like if something's slightly off and you're really feeling the music and you're really into the zone and feeling that, that just makes it even better in some ways, because if it's robotic, like note, 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 like on the beat, but no kind of crescendo, decrescendo, whatever, there's no expression in that. And I think it's important to have the expression.
Oh yeah, I totally. And I was the same way when I was playing classical tunes. My piano teacher probably wanted to kill me because I don't. I mean, I've probably said this before. I'm really not a big read the music guy, and like my mom would make me practice every day. Thanks, mom, for putting me where I am today. But she'd always like play. She'd have to play the tune for me because I mean, like I could read a lot better than I can now, but I just hated reading it. I'd much rather like sort of figure it out by ear. And honestly, to a point, like some of those like Bach tunes, like you know where the chords are gonna be. Like you don't really have to guess that hard to like know what chord's gonna come next. So yeah, that's the kind of thing is like, what if you want to add a couple things here and there, and then, I guess that's frowned upon within the classical circles of the music community today. But I think you're right. I think sometimes it needs a little, I don't know, when was the Baroque or when was Bach was several hundred years ago, right? So maybe it needs a little update, maybe it needs a couple notes, but no, Bach's great and he doesn't need me to critique his music, but sometimes it's just cool to throw in a note or two, make it a little bit closer to your own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so important to make it your own, add expression, and put your heart into it. And I think that is a great stopping point for this fabulous discussion. But before we wrap up, what are some final thoughts on what it's like being a session player?
I love it. It's probably my favorite thing to do. I love it when you text me and you say, "Hey, come in on this day." That's awesome. It's a great way, it's cool musically, but it's also a great way to make it's a little bit of a side hustle for me. College is pricey, and all the money that I make from that I save up. So it's not only is it musically fulfilling, I get to make a couple extra bucks, I get to meet new people, and every time I play a session, I'm always asking Bob questions. If I had a mute button, he'd probably hit it by now. But I'm always like, why did you choose this mic? Or like, why are you doing this? And I always learn so much from him. When I'm with him, and I learn so much about writing and your style when I play your songs. So it's a perfect job, and I love the studio aspect of music, and I hope to continue that. Everybody wants to be a rock star, so I hope I get to, keep producing people, and I'd love for that to be my job one day, but if not, I'll certainly be doing that on the side for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being on, Luke. This has
Yeah, I had a lot of
been
fun.
incredible. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So before we go, where can everybody find you on social and your music?
Okay, so my Instagram is at Luke Wood Official, and my YouTube channel is Luke Wood, but I don't know if I have enough subscribers yet to come up like first in the algorithm. But right now, I have a physics song up on YouTube. I have a Beatles song and I have a Fleetwood Mac song. And very, very soon, we will be adding Elton John to that list of music videos. So certainly check out the YouTube channel if you want to see some cool videos.
Thank you so much again. This has been fabulous. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to this awesome episode with Luke Wood. And until next time, stay
Stay
right
right
on
on track.
track.